Hey there, looks like we started. Does anybody hear me? This is an experiment, first time live show, so let's try doing this together. Thanks. So, I was thinking of dividing this in two parts. The first part we try and rebuild a website, so you see me build it and you perhaps have questions or discover something you didn't know. We have a website we built some time ago as a landing page. So the idea could be that we start from that. You will only see me in the corner down here, so you don't have to worry. Let's start with this. The idea is this is the mock-up we got from our designer for a website. So we want to build this. And we have some assets over here, but we'll try and reproduce this layout in Sparkle. So I'm going to try and convey the thinking on how you recreate a design. This is, in fact, a very nice looking landing page, and it's also pretty simple to rebuild. So let's get started. I'll start with running Sparkle here. And this is version 2.6.1, which you should all download. So the first visual element is the header image. So we have it over here. Let's see, these are a few different assets we have. Since we most likely want this image to be edge-to-edge in the browser, we will make it a background image for a wide box. So as you probably know, in Sparkle you have predefined layout widths, and the most content should not be cannot be laid out of the main canvas. So what we'll do here is use a wide element. So wide elements can exceed the canvas width, and they can be so they will be visible even beyond the edges when you have a wider browser window. The discussion on how to build responsive sites is not complex, but it's more involved. So we'll start with just a plain desktop layout, and then we can discuss options for doing more than that. So we start with a box. This is where our header hero image will appear. We could be tempted to start by setting an image right away. We can do that, but the fill color is an important thing to tweak here, because before the image loads, what will happen is the browser will immediately show whatever background color you have set here. So we have two options here. We either make it white, which is pretty straightforward. We could also pick a color which is closer to the image we will be putting here, so it sort of approximates what the image will become, but it's for the time being it's simpler to just put an image here. So I'll go back to my assets folder here, and just drag the image into the color well here, and so that's the main hero image. We can move it around and try and get something which is closer to our mockup. This is probably done by making the image stretch to the full width and then adapting it to be perhaps aligned on the top here. When you have images which exceed the canvas width, they will appear differently in the browser. That's inevitable. Let's take a look at the live preview here. So I'll just make a preview in Safari. So as you see, it's already different compared to Sparkle. If I make this narrower, the images is scaled. And that's inevitable, and that's just how it works. So we can go back. An added effect we can do here is make the image fixed in Windows. So this will adapt the image to the whole window. So in the case of the browser, it will make it the original image will be stretched to the size of the browser window. So if I make it narrower, you see it's more scaling up and down more smoothly. And you can see the fixed nature as soon as I put something further down on the page. Well, you see it here in the Sparkle canvas. If I place an element further down so that I can scroll up, and you see the background image is fixed in the page. This was probably the intent of the designer. Let's say, even though it's not communicated in the mockup here. So the next step would be to add the header elements. So I see the designer provided an asset for the texts and the subtext. This wasn't strictly necessary. They probably did it because it was faster or it was simpler for them to grab a font in Photoshop or Sketch. Of course, you could just type in this text and pick an appropriate font in Sparkle, but let's just drag this in. So I can position this here and the subtext here. This is more or less what the mockup looks like, and then we can add a menu here. So we start with a plain menu, which we'll then customize. This looks like a mustache here. So we add a couple elements here, and the menu adapts. So we can. This is more or less the position here. Just type in real quick. This is just an adaptation of the mockup, so we won't be setting up the links precisely here, or we could. We'll see later on. And location here. So then we say take out the background color for the menu and make the text white. This is closer. This is probably a different font. I didn't make note of the fonts here, so let's just leave it at Lato right now. I'll make it slightly taller here. So let's move on to the next section. There's a gallery here. So I'll go by exclusion. I didn't note which images should go in the gallery. Let's just take a couple. There's 5 dots, so presumably there's 5 pictures here, but we're just doing something here for to just show how general construction proceeds. So this area of the page is pretty simply just a gallery and a couple text blocks and a button. We could pick a font here. We'll see how that goes. So this is probably one of the pictures, and then I'll add a few more in. Say, I don't know, that one. Just add a few horizontal pictures. That one was probably used there. So I can drag these over to the Sparkle canvas, and these will be turned into a gallery right away. The proportion of the gallery is going to be whatever I make it here, and I can turn off the arrows and add the dots below. So this is, and perhaps customize the dot color to be, let's see, let's pick one of these. I don't know if it was this color, might be a custom lighter color. We could go on tinkering forever here, but it's just to sort of see how you build a layout that looks like it, pretty much. So now I'm going to add a couple sections of text here. One is right here. Let's do that. and another one below. So as you see, I can, I'm following a mock-up here. I could be sort of trying to figure it out and add elements. The elements on a page have a default look, which is sort of a rough sketch or wireframe look. So these text blocks, it would be nice to have a website all full of content right away. Of course, we build it over by trial and error or by eyeballing it. So we start with placeholder text, and that's a good way to see how the visual balance works out. Now here we have slightly taller text, so we probably should use the actual text. For this text below, I can leave either the squiggles or add some fake Latin text, which gives me an idea of what the layout will look like. For the title text, I probably type in the actual text because that makes it, how the text extends on the page, how it, how much it blackens the page is actually dependent on the actual text. So I'll type it out. Do you aspire to be a professional? So let's pick some fonts, which is this one might work. This was on Makeup Artist. Markup Artist. Ha! That's a good typo. So this is on 3 lines like that. And make it slightly closer. And make that word in theme. So now I have a bit of it's a different font, so it has, or it might be slightly different the way it's being typeset. Perhaps they had some hard breaks in there, but it's fine. And so we're trying to make something which kind of looks like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be identical for the purpose of this. We can make this a bit tighter. Make it look like the original text. Try and make the buttons more similar. Can you set things in place by setting numbers and coordinates? Yes, you can. You can switch to the arrange pane and say set exactly a 200 pixel width and a 40 pixel height if you want to have exact rounding. It is possible. Sometimes you probably prefer to look at a visual balance. Of course, if you have a grid of items, then you want to make sure they have the same distance and the same positioning. And for that, well, we have 3 elements in the grid below, but you can turn on a layout grid here. And so you can sort of make things more in grid if you want. There's nothing special about the grid itself. I mean, it's kind of arbitrary anyway, but if you're comfortable having things on a precise grid, that's possible via the grid. I actually prefer eyeballing things more, so I turn off the layout grid. That's perhaps a habit of how you work or personal preference. So I kind of made this slightly different proportion, so I'm trying to make it closer in aspect. Perhaps the text should be slightly smaller, so I don't know if there's a predefined one, and something like that. And make the button more similar to the mockup, so learn more. Learn more. We could actually write it learn more and then use the text transformations here to make it all uppercase. This is not exactly the same thing because if you type it uppercase, well, the button is of course a special case, but If you type something uppercase, search engines will show it uppercase. If you make it capitalized, the text will still be lowercase in the page, and it will be uppercase when it's shown in the browser. So it's a slightly different choice. So make the button have a border, and have it a black border or a dark border, and then add some rounding here, something like that. Take out the fill. This is the first part of the page. Now we have the divider line, and we can, I guess, use this white box here conveniently. Just make it 1 pixel tall like that, or sort of closer here. And but this is a good case where you using the arrange pane can help you make it exactly 1 pixel, because it becomes harder to select. And make it some dark gray for consistency. So this is not exactly the same as the mockup currently. Actually, I think we have a different image here, so let's see if we can swap this. Just move them around here in preview, or in the gallery pop-up. So let's see, we have, make the page taller here a bit. We have, next section has, is the courses section. We could actually link the page here, so let's go back to the menu. Now this is an automatically created menu item. Menu items are of different kinds. You have the ones you add yourself with the plus button here, and the ones which are automatically added, like the checkbox here says auto add pages. So that means that whenever you add a page here, say I add a new one here, go back and the menu has this item for the new page. So undo that, and when you have automatically added menu item, what happens is the link, you see here, the link is always fixed to that page. Well, in this case, what we want to do is a menu of scroll locations or anchors. And so what we will do here is remove this item. So perhaps first, so I'll turn off the auto add pages. So now I'm manually managing the menu. I'll add a new item called this one, courses, and put it up here. And so they seem identical in the canvas here. You see here that the first one is the one that links to page 1. The second one lets me set a link location. So get rid of the first one and put the menu back in place. Now the courses, I will link to a page in this website, which is this page here. Page 1, which is this page, and set the scroll location. And now I have this scroll location indicator here, and I'll place it where I'm going to start my courses section. So this is the scroll location. You see I can move it where I want. I actually could make it, this will end up being part of the website link. So if I type something here, it becomes something that people link to. So it would be better if it had a proper name. So name it courses. Go back to the menu, and now my courses menu item is linked on page 1 to courses. Actually, since I'm noticing this page 1 is the page title, I might want to choose a better one. So let's say this site is Ham and Camille. And so now if I go back to the menu, it has the proper page title here. So this is all automatically managed by Sparkle. The same page is under the page. The same title is under the page thumbnail here, and new in version 2.6, you can turn off thumbnails if this makes your navigation within the website faster. I like having thumbnails here, but of course, when you have a large site, it's not always convenient to have all the thumbnails there. So let's continue with the page section. This is about courses. It has a text which is similar to this one, so I'll just cheat and clone this. And so here I'll write discover our courses. So I cheated here, and now I'll do the same for the text under it, and it's a bit shorter. I mean, it's just for quick mock-up purposes. So next I have to set up this grid of 3 elements. I'll probably turn on the grid because makes it simpler to make these exact placements. So this is a 12-column grid, so it's let's see. So this looks like it's been done with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like it's been done with 12. So I have a 12 column grid. I can adjust the gutter size, but in this case I'm going to use the full part of the columns. So I'm going to throw the images in. Let's see, that one, and then that one. And the third one is the paint. So I place them more or less like that. And so I'm going to use 3 columns for this one. Not sure it's going to turn out exactly as I want it, but I'll try that. And now a quick shortcut here is I pick this image as the first one, then I pick second and third, and I say same size and same height and same width, and so I have 3 images of the same size. Now I use the green snap guides to lay them out. So this is has a slightly different proportion. Maybe I should turn off the layout grid and make it more like I like it. I'll still use the same size and same width to place them. Now I have to eyeball their distance a little more, but that's fine. I think it looks okay. Now let's add the week, first week, second week, and third week text. So this is looks like a sans serif font. So for simplicity, I'll use Lato, make it centered, and then move the text box slightly here, make it bold, slightly larger. This looks like it's good enough. Duplicate, and let's see, 3 weeks. Oh, sorry, 2 weeks, 2 days. These are the course durations. Oops, couldn't snap this. So here I have a slightly different alignment, so I'm there. See, make these slightly closer. And I'm not sure we have if these overlays have been we can try building these. So these little price circles, these should be easy enough to build in Sparkle. So I'll just make a box like that. Use the same pink color. I want to make this translucent. Now, if I something which isn't very explained very well in the Sparkle interface, which we have documented, but many customers trip into this, is if I change the color here and make it, say, green, the color well is used by all elements that is synchronized with all elements that use it. So this text also changed to green. This is actually great for consistency. So say you want to pick a slightly different variation on the color or hue, then you can change it once and for all. The problem is this: in this case, I want to make this the pink here. I want to make it translucent, like this sort of sticker shape. So if I do it here, it will change for the text that already uses that color. So I'm doing here. Oops. So let's go back. do this color here, maybe. Lost it. So if I have this color here and I want to make it translucent, what I can do is select the current color here, and now I'm only going to change it for the current element. So if I change the color here, it will not change for the courses text which already uses it. So this is going to be similar, and I'm going to make this a square. This is another case where I can use the numbers here, so I make it square, perhaps smaller, 100 by 100, and give it rounding all the way up, so it becomes a circle. So that was pretty simple. Actually, I think it should be slightly more opaque. But let's try with a shadow first. I think it has a little bit of a shadow there. So, a little shadow, I can preview the shadow in real time like that. Make like that, and then make it less opaque all the way down like that. So there's a bit nice depth. Still want to make it slightly more opaque. So something like that. All these are things you can do by eyeballing the canvas, which is pretty high fidelity. Sometimes you might want to check the live preview. Live preview changes in some cases, like for example the exact positioning of wide images, or in some cases, you know, like you on the button here, I noticed that the hover color wasn't previewed in the canvas, so I can probably go back and change this. Otherwise, I mean, it's pretty what you see is what you get. So I go back here and put the price label in. So I'm gonna text on here and say what was the Mockup saying. So this is $699 and make it white. I'm not even sure the Mockup was made in Sparkle here. This looks like more like a sketch thing maybe. So it's not going to be identical, but still can eyeball it to make it exactly like I want. Actually, it looks like a fixed font. No, anyway. So make it bold. Centered so it stays there. Okay, so now I'm pretty much centered here, and then I can, for example, I can make a group. So now I have one item to move around, and duplicate that, and put it here, duplicate that, and put it here. And then this is $4.59. This is $1.99. So Bart says he didn't know that about the current color, and you found out something. You can probably worth checking out the documentation from time to time. We do update it. We are going to update it now for 2.6. Unfortunately, we had to rush the 2.6 release, so we didn't update it, but it's coming soon. So go back to regular size here. It's too much. So we have some text below. I'm going to cut this short in a little bit, but just wanted to show you a little more of how it's done. So I'm still just doing general layout here. You can put the exact copy in later, or leave it squiggles. Or here we have buttons which look very much like that one. So I'm just going to hold that one, and it makes it simpler. And same size. This is going to be quicker. Let's see. Book 1 week. Book 2 weeks. Book 2 days. 3 days. Okay. 2 days and 2 days. Let's change that to make it more like the Mockup. Next, we have an image with some text over it. So let's see. This looks like a full width image again. So I'm going to place a full width section here. about as tall as what a browser would be. Make it white, and then put a background image. See my assets here. Okay. Stretched. Now it looks like the mockup. And we can add text again, copying it from here, except it's going to be all white. Do you want to know more about our work? So I think I messed up the mockup here. There was probably a button saying contact us. I don't know. And so we can quickly make the button here match the style. The border slightly more visible. Font size larger and bolder. Okay. I can go back, check what the so the browser preview is actually very much like what the final website will be. So in half an hour we built a pretty convincing mockup. Let's see what's missing here. So we have a section here with 2 bios, and this is going to be also pretty quick to set up. So let's grab the profile pics. This is one, this is the other. So I'll put them both on canvas. Individual images, and so make them square. So 400 by 400. So to make that stretch to fill. Same for this one. 400 by 400. Stretch to fill, and make it like a round profile pic. Very much in fashion. So one thing you'll note on the side here is this image resolution meter. This is actually pretty important to keep your eye on, because if you have Mac, which say an iMac, which isn't the newer 5K iMac, you might not notice that your images are lower resolution because your screen is showing non-retina pixel density. So what happens there is perhaps an image is low quality, and someone with Retina Mac will notice low resolution image or artifacts, which makes it not very professional looking. So if you take a look at this resolution meter, you will see that it shows how much how much pixel density you can afford still. So the meter in this case is showing that I have enough image resolution for standard pixel density, so your old iMac, and I have enough resolution for 2x, which is Retina pixel density, and 3x would be the Super Retina, like on an iPhone X, iPhone 10. But in this case, we have enough for so the image will be of a sufficient quality for crispness on Retina screens. This is adjusted live, so if I resize the image, I'll see that if I made the image this large, I would be compromising on my image quality for Retina. So the image I have chosen for the profile, that's going to be good enough. So this section has a background color, so I forgot to add this in, so just place this here, make it same color, and actually it's slightly different. Let's say I want to pick exactly the preview color here. Currently, the best way to do that, well, I first have to pick a different color well, otherwise I'll be changing other colors, and I don't want to do that. So let's say I pick this purple color well here and change this color. So the way to do it is I click on this system color here and click on the eyedropper, and here I can pick the exact color. So now I have matched my color coming from the outside world, so to speak. So now I can move this to the back, and let's see, I can again clone some text up here for convenience purposes. So this is going to be let's see, super lazy. actually this is white, so let's make it white. And the other bio is the same. Actually, let's make this Lapa because it looks like it's sans serif font. So I'll make it shortcut and put the other one. So here, align it with the top. And this is so these are two bios, and then I'll just grab some text here and place it down here. This is just a quick hack to make it fill the space we need. It's not actually something you would do in production. Actually, now I made the text too big, and so as you see, I get a clipping warning. This means the text in the browser would be clipped to that size. This is the new extremely precise extremely precise text layout engine we added in Sparkle 2.5. So just to be sure that it doesn't move items around on the page, it will clip text instead. So you're warned in the canvas though, so you can adapt. So these are two text blocks here. So let's see a question. Right. So Anthony says you could have your designer provide SVGs, so you don't have resolution issues with logos and fixed graphics. That's of course I should have mentioned that. Of course, this is a picture, so for pictures you don't have the equivalent of a vector format to work with. Now, in this case, let's see. For example, let's try and do that for the heart image here. So I will go to some, sure. What can I search for? So pink heart SVG, and steal a heart image somewhere like that one. Actually, I'm not sure how to do it. Yeah, never mind. I'll try another time. So next is let's add the social link here. Follow me on Instagram. Again, there's a small image which can probably best be done with an SVG, but I will not add it right now. Follow me on Instagram. Again, I'll make this capitalized, lot of font, and perhaps somewhat smaller. That looks pretty good. So Scott asks, would it be better to use textiles when arranging a certain text? Yes, it would be better to use textiles, of course, especially when you work with a multi-device context, because when you have multiple devices, you set a text size, for example, and that will be settable in a distinct way on each device. So it's preferable to have a textile for those cases, so you can quickly add text on, say, a desktop device and have it already be the proper size on your mobile layout. For the time being, I'm just showing you the quickest way to build a landing page, a mock-up, so that you can sort of show the designer you have something you built, and they can comment on that, and it's going to be a real-life site. And of course, if your designer gives you a Sparkle file, then it's easier, isn't it? So next section is a subscribe contact section. So subscribe. I would say that our designer didn't design a GDPR compliant newsletter form here, but I'm just kidding you. So I added some more space here. Let's add another box for the bottom image. And again, turn off the background color, take it from our assets here. See, that one was probably, what was it? Oh, like that one maybe. And then we'll add a box on top for the form. So this is a white box. Oops. the box here. You can center it visually by using the green guidelines. Let's see what's here. Subscribe text. Let's add the form fields. So these are the contact form is also free form built in Sparkle. So you just add items on the page, and there will be and then you can configure the collection button to collect them. So I actually would like these to be the same height, so I'll do that. Next, I would like these to have a placeholder text. This is not the same as a pre-filled content, so I want first name here. What this means, let's make it slightly bigger. What this means, if I go to our preview here, pre-filled text would be text that I find here and I have to manually delete. The placeholder is something I can that shows me sort of a hint of what the field should contain, and as I type, it will disappear. So that's preferable. So let's see. This is the last name here. Let's make these slightly closer, same size, like that, and last name. So this will be the email. So the best way here is just to copy style and just paste style here, so I have the same placeholder text size. Actually, these have a slightly bigger border and blacker, so pick that, make it 2 pixels, and I should actually just leave this like in the background so I can see it. The preview here is updated live, so oops, I didn't. Sorry, mistake. So, undo. Okay, so copy style here and paste style here. So you see, as I change the project, it's live. Now that I see the real size, this looks a little too big, perhaps. So maybe make it 18 points. And slightly smaller, and then just make them all more or less the same. Actually, I have to copy the style again. Text is too big. There you go. So align these and make this closer. So this looks more acceptable. Next, I'll add the submit button. So the submitting forms, it's its own discussion. We can talk about it another time, perhaps. Let's see. Make this dark color. Maybe it was a dark blue color, so I'll just customize the color for this button here. Make the button text white and a bit bigger. It's definitely not the same blue. Let's try and pick again the same color here. So there you go, same blue, and add some corner rounding like that. And we have some text here, so just be lazy again, center this, and let's make it all black, gray. Make it slightly smaller. Subscribe. Then make it smaller again. So sign up. Sorry, mistake. So small effect size here. Sign up with the address to receive news, updates, and promotions. Okay. So this wide enough, center it with the guides. Okay, so it's not identical. It's looking good though. And I can check the preview again. I generally leave the preview always open and bounce back and forth with Command Tab or the dock So this is perhaps not identical to the mockup, but it's coming close. It will take another half an hour of work to refine the minor details. Last thing I have here is another section with a lighter pink color and a map, so we can try doing that. Let me take this pink here, and if I remember correctly, no, it's not the current color, so I'll set it to be the current color and grab that pink, and then yeah, do the shortcut again, just to be quick. Our rotation, and it's white. So serif text, and add a map here. So I'll have map element. This more or less here. So this is going to be for now what I do here. This is the map. In my case, defaults to New York. We can make it San Francisco, of course. And that will search on the Google map and make it very close. And so that's our Sparkle project. Let's save it. And Camille, I can publish it if I want, and see a live preview here. And so I think that was pretty quick to build. It's not perfect. The map isn't working because we need to have an API key for everything now. Google is tightening their control over maps. So let's get to some question, and let's, wow, 50 minutes went by. I thought it would be quicker. So let's see. Anthony says, Sparkle breaks the hugely inefficient model, allowing you to work directly with the client. And yeah, I think so. I mean, there is often different skills and specializations, and I can see how somebody would use a designer for some things, and maybe be the coder or implementer in Sparkle of design that a designer refuses to see interactively. That can happen. Somebody can be very specialized in something. I think increasingly you will not need a coder if you are happy with what Sparkle does, and Sparkle doesn't do everything right now, but we're adding features all the time, so eventually it will do enough that you don't need a coder to do specific things, and eventually coders will be working only on very high-end sites. So I see 100 text says the layout you are building is already responsive. No, as I said at the beginning of this, Sparkle works with responsive layouts by adding multiple layouts. We have a documentation section on our website about devices, which explains how that works, and I'll load it up here. I suggest you take a look. We will talk about this in a future live show, I'd say. Essentially, what you have to do is open the devices pop-up, add the portrait smartphone layout is the suggested thing to do, and adapt the layout there. So I can show you what happens when you do that, but it's going to be a little bit too much for this show today. So I press that, and then I switch to the portrait smartphone layout. And so all text has been scaled down, and all boxes have been scaled down. This needs to be adapted and reflowed manually in Sparkle currently. So go back to the desktop device. It would be great if we can change the input type to email or date instead of always text. This is thanks for the feature request. We are aware of that. We will be adding input text filters. Time saver. Anthony notes a time saver is Sparkle does the image resizing for you. That's correct. You don't need to do any of the prepare images. This image is, for example, is 900 by 654 pixels in the canvas. As the resolution meter shows here, you have ample resolution for any size, but Sparkle has a canvas size of 271 by 180, and it will size the image to that size exactly. It will also optimize it for high performance, so you will get you should get no complaint by Google PageSpeed about image compression. And in the site settings here, you can set image resolutions that you want to have. So Sparkle by default generates plain images and so non-retina resolution images, and 2x, so retina quality images. You can have super retina images generated as well. This is something you probably should do if you have a specific audience that you want to target, because generally speaking, it's pretty hard to see the difference between 2x and 3x resolution, even on an iPhone 10. I mean, on a JPEG, of course, like an image, a photograph. If you have vector graphics, which you have, which you are using in a bitmap image, so a JPEG or a PNG, in that case, well, first perhaps you should choose to use an SVG instead, and second, perhaps using 3x here would help with the image quality. But again, it would only be visible on devices with a very, very high resolution screen, so iPhone 10 and I'm not sure. The iPhone 8 Plus, 7 Plus, so the Plus iPhones, and perhaps some Android tablet has very high DPI. I'm not sure. And Sparkle will also generate WebP images if you want. It takes a little more time and it saves a little bit of size for devices, for web browsers which are able to view WebPs. So Chrome both on desktop and on Android phones. The reason WebP is still an option is some web servers, Windows-based web servers, do not have the WebP MIME type configured by default. So if you publish the site and you use, say, Firefox, the site will look great to you. But then someone with Chrome will go to that website and they'll see no image, because the server is because the Chrome browser is trying to load the WebP, but the server doesn't have it configured. This is only for specific Windows IIS web servers. So this is why it's still an option for the time being, and in the future we might auto detect this and make it and take out an option, which is something we love doing. Another question: will this